I'm really excited to have all of you here. I want to welcome all of you. We have Mabel Valdiviezo. Did I say that right?
Yes, Valdivieso, right.
And then we also have Mimi Chakarova and Mikaela Shwer.
Yep.
Thanks. That was the most challenging. I just want to start out if each of you could just give really short bio and like a really short synopsis of your documentary that's in the festival. Just a couple sentences about yourself and your film, just so we can sort of orient people to who you are and what sort of film we're talking about. So, Mabel, would you start?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us to be part of this conversation. My name is Mabel Valdivieso, Peruvian born, living in San Francisco. And I'm a filmmaker, artist, and a film editor. And my film is Prodigal Daughter. And it really is about what it means to be an immigrant, what it means to be human. And it's about my reconnection with my family in Peru after 16 years of absence and silence.
Thank you, Mabel. Mimi, would you like to go next? Oh, just when you're going to take a drink, sorry.
No, it's all good. Mimi Chakarova. I am a filmmaker. I used to be a photojournalist before I started making films. Right now, the film that we are going to be screening in Tucson is called In the Red, and it's 11 years in the making. It's about a group of Black firefighters who not only inspire young people, but completely change the course of their lives. Young people who some are in juvenile detention centers, some are in the foster care system, some are from the streets. And so it's through that training that we kind of watch over a long period of time that we see this incredible change. I follow 6 different young people's lives, 5 guys and 1 woman. So it's been quite a journey.
Thank you very much, Mimi. Michaela.
Yeah, I'm Mikaela Shwer. I'm an editor and filmmaker. Actually went to the University of Arizona, so I'm really excited to be coming back to Tucson. I've worked about, 15, 20 years as an editor, and this is my second feature film, and it's called The Kids Are Not All Right, and it's about the long-lasting impacts of the troubled teen industry, which is a network of for-profit programs claiming to fix kind of wayward teens. So boot camps, wilderness programs, and residential therapeutic boarding schools. And we followed, I thought our journey was long. We followed people for about 9 years on that. Really looking at the impacts that stay with people for decades later.
I'm really curious about since all of your films were fairly long in the making. Mimi, how long was yours again?
11 years.
11 years, right. And Mabel, how long was yours again?
15 years.
15, and Mikhail's was 9. So, um, how do you like energetically stay with a project that long? Did you have moments along the way where you lost interest or doubted it or struggled with it? Or do you always sort of keep multiple projects in the loop that are, unfolding over time? Anybody can go ahead and answer that.
I mean, for our case, we were really just following, we weren't quite sure what was going to happen. And I do always edit on the side as, to make money. And so that is a day job. And this is generally always, on other time. And so I think there have been times where I took, needed to take a year off in a way. And I think some of that time was good for the process. And then it's also kind of following where the story is taking you. So I think for us, the struggle was certainly, funding and certain struggles of just filmmaking and trying to keep the story moving. But then also things would happen in the story. In ours, the Child Victims Act in New York passed, which extended the statute of limitations for sexual assault to minors, and that we weren't expecting that. And so that happened, and that created a whole new story for us where we thought we might be ending close to that time. And we just decided to keep following the story. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah, for me, it was somewhat similar in certain level to Mikaela. Um, I mean, first of all, my film is so much about myself and my family and building my relationship with my family after 16 years. So I started the film when I received my green card in 2009. And that was the practical impetus to make the film. The internal emotional impetus was that I really needed to do it because I didn't know necessarily that well then, but I knew that it was going to be a healing process, even though I didn't, in the externally I didn't, wasn't too conscious of it. I had some consciousness of it, but not deeply. And it's in the during these years of building that relationship with my family little by little, that the film took what it needed to take. I always thought, oh, it should be sooner than 15 years, and I wasn't feeling really good about it. But at the same time, now that I have finished the film, it needed to be a long period of time because also being somebody Latina BIPOC with not that many resources, I would go to Peru, mostly with my own money, and here and there I will get a few grants, and in between, the majority had to build. I did have some funders, but the majority really had to be from, self-funding, and that was very hard. And part of it was thanks to, for a long time, I was doing corporate video editing alongside other film projects that will come my way as a documentary editor. And just also here and there, it was necessary for me to take time off to reflect and also to refresh my being. The topics are not necessarily that easy. And so as of personal stories I need to unveil in front of the audience and also talk to my family about. That time, um, I was either working or working in another artistic multimedia project that, oh, surprise, had to do with the topic, but in a more, not in a personal level, but more in a community level. And so making other types of art and working with the community also sustained me during that time. And just building relationship with people that have eventually known about the film, the community level, and they're now excited that I'm finally done with the film and we can show it in these communities, immigrant communities.
Mimi.
Yeah, I started filming in 2013, and then a couple years later, there was this amazing kind of, let's see what's happened to everyone in the film, and everyone was doing amazing, and the trajectory was incredible, and it would have been false, So I thought if we were to stop the film then and there, it would not give you a full sense of the picture. Because 5 years after initial filming, a bunch, without telling too much about the story, but a bunch of things happened to the kids in the film. And, you really see how it's not a straight line. Change is it's not that easy. So for me, the biggest challenge was how do we tell that fuller story? How do we stay with it and really give viewers a sense of the personal struggle and how life happens and all kinds of stuff happens in people's lives. And I was fortunate to still have access to still be able to go into people's homes and still be welcome and continue working on it for another X amount of years. And now it feels, I mean, again, it's that question, like, when do you know when a film is done? When do you wrap it up? Because, we can keep on working. I mean, I can see I could easily work on this for another 10 years, another 20 years. When is the project over? And I think, sometimes when you're putting it together, you're editing, you start getting more of a sense of, okay, the picture is a little bit fuller. It's revealing the complexity of life in a more intelligent way, that's honest. And it's not, we're not sugarcoating anything, and we're not trying to have these large brushstrokes, of generalizing people's lives. Like, people's lives are complicated. So yeah.
That's something I appreciated about all three films, was that you showed that there were bumps in the road, and that there were false starts, and the road to healing and redemption, or whatever the road was in your each particular film, wasn't a straight line, as how you described it. And I really appreciated that complexity, and like the level of honesty, I think, in your subjects, in all of your films. With you, Mabel, it was your honesty, which must have been incredibly challenging. I mean, did the time kind of help you to like open up more as the film was you were making the film?
Yeah, I think the time was really allowed me to um, be more comfortable with myself in terms of what I wanted to reveal. There was so much I could have revealed even more, but to what point is necessary and to what point is really needed for the story and for what I'm trying to tell. And so there was all this going back, doing a lot of reflection and discussion with my team as well. While I'm an editor for my film, I did edit, but I wasn't the only editor. I had two other editors who really kept me, we kept the conversation in this trust circle, safe circle where we could bounce off ideas and possibilities and what, within that, following my vision, but really at the end of the day, also really, I wanted to know that it will be something that anybody who had certain tendencies to the kind of story would really resonate with it at the emotional level. Also because, I think that for undocumented filmmaker, people like myself at the time, I was just coming out of being undocumented, but the undocumented consciousness didn't leave me right away as soon as I got my green card. I kept having a lot of what you describe as PTSD during the times, and also like the repercussions, what it would mean to like reveal this when I'm doing work for other people in companies and so forth, and also for my family in terms of what they felt comfortable with me revealing. Ultimately, it had to do a lot with my my own, but in certain things, I had to do with my family too. So I need to be thoughtful of that, and I need to learn what care means for them, for myself, but ultimately reveal an essential truth of my journey. And with that, also reflect on what is the journey of the people that may have um, similar points of encounter with my story, and so that they potentially could benefit from seeing the film, whether it's some element in sight or whether it's an element, therapeutic element. And that's why I also wanted to do art workshops, wellness workshops that go along with the film.
Mhm. How much for folks, everybody could answer this, is, working with your subjects, how much agency and authorship did you try to give them in your documentary? I mean, obviously you all are the filmmakers, but there's, certain power dynamics between filmmaker and subject, and how did you navigate that, I guess is what I'm asking.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Mikaela.
Yeah, I mean, I think every project is a little different, and I think there's a lot of views on how much to give people, but I think in stories like this where people are sharing, for me, trauma and abuse, and they're very personal stories and have let us in. I see myself, I hope to be sharing it with them versus kind of coming in and telling it for them. And so for me, it's pretty important that they are involved in the process, and not in ways that are, exactly like editorial control or anything, but that they feel comfortable, they've seen the films, they can have input, we can have discussions about the film, um, and just making sure, yeah, that they are involved in that process. I think especially over so long, it took a while to kind of get trust, and I see these are people in my life that I have relationships with, and so from my point of view, I don't want it to feel kind of transactional in a way, and I want them to really feel like it's their story being shared as well.
Mm-hmm. And Mimi, how did your subjects feel about the representation and the process?
So, we had to figure out the structure of the film, how do we tie it all together? And I think the first decision was to make sure that it's narrated by one of the people in the film, Joseph Stubbs, who's coming to Tucson next week, and he's so excited to be there. And he's really like the heart and soul of the documentary film. So it's his voice that you hear throughout the whole film. And he and I worked really closely together for more than a year. I mean, we never went to a recording studio. We would do the recordings in his closet, in the car. We did it guerrilla style, and it worked. Because I think for him too, I think had we gone to a sound studio and have there been sound engineers, and it would have really just changed the dynamic. But often, sometimes he'll be nervous and I'll just say, Stubbs, it's just me. Like, it's just me and the mic. And so it was very much collaborative. I did not show anyone a, a rough cut. None of the characters in the film saw a rough cut. We premiered at Santa Barbara, the International Film Festival, so they got to see it on the big screen for the first time. And it was amazing, just to have that trust and to just let them know, look, I can show it to you on my laptop, or you can just hold off and wait until we can celebrate together. And so it was pretty remarkable. But yeah, I would say Stubbs is very much, the heart and soul of the whole project.
Yeah, I concur. And his like sort of direct address, talking right to the audience style of narration was really effective and really like funny, and like, it just felt very intimate but casual, and yeah, it was delightful actually. So yeah, that rocked the way that you handled that. Um, let's see. Well, all of your films do deal with trauma. And I don't know what I want to ask about that. I guess, is that like sort of a necessary dramatic element, or is that just in the zeitgeist? We're all traumatized in various ways. And we're all thinking more about people that have been marginalized and traumatized for various reasons, and disempowered. Um, but I just was it was interesting to me that all of your pieces dealt with trauma.
Yeah, I can speak to that from my own perspective, from a personal documentary kind of perspective. I mean, it would be really not not authentic to not show, in my case, in my story, the aspects of trauma that I was depicting in the film or choosing to show in the film. The main thing for me was, how do I show it in a way that is gentle? And I hope that that's the case. I think that that's what people are getting from it. But that it's gentle, but not like not potentially re-traumatizing, but also like not using it as a candy kind of, oh, come and see this film that had this juicy part. Because I cannot say that my story represents many people, but at the same time, I know that there are certain aspects of it that had been experienced by other women, by other undocumented people, by other artists, women artists. and in childhood as well. And so like the process that took me to show to eventually have the film in the way it is now was that along the way, um, other types of art that were also part of my who I am and part of my story came into more full force to really, oh, through those layers of painting or visual diaries of poetic visuals, um, to talk about it in a way that is not so much in the way that you will show it like in a journalistic way. And so I think that that was a way to work with it. Um, and also because the paintings that I was doing also had this other layer of not just showing the aspect of how trauma is during, an incident for childhood that, talk about in the film, but also these photos that were converted into sort of like photo paintings have other aspects of like beauty, of vibrancy that to represent my own particular self or my culture, and also my mother, who is also an artist. And so that and also some friends of mine who, at least one of them who is in the film, and he's also an artist. And the work that they were doing, or we were doing in the 90s, early 90s, early 80s and early 90s, had to do with art, and a little bit different, more youth activism, punkish kind of thing, but it was always about art. And so art within the film is a way to talk about it.
That's also true in Mikaela's film as well. That comes up. Two of your subjects are artists or doing art. Uh,
Three of them, actually.
oh, really? All three?
Well, Caddy works on cars, which I still think
Oh,
would
that's
be
right. That's
considered.
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I thought that was really fascinating, and so the art as healing, right? And then I thought it was really quite timely that in Mabel, your film, it was during the Fujimori regime, and there was, sort of authoritarian bordering on fascist situation in Peru. My general take on it, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert. But, there was this political art going on as well. So this power of art, and I thought it was very meta because, you're making art as a documentarian, and then you're documenting making art as a healing. And even in Mimi's film, there was a lot of graphics and that were, very artistic in your film, your transitions and stuff like that. So do you want to talk about that a little bit, maybe, Mikaela, the art aspect?
Sure. I mean, I think it was fascinating to kind of understand how art was helping each person in our film. For Liz, it's almost taking something, she rips up papers that have bad memories and then is painting over them. And just to hear her process of like ripping it, taking the power away, and then she's choosing what goes over that and how much you can see of that. And I thought that was just like such an incredible process, and just really unique in terms of how to take something that was so painful and to, yeah, she says, make it something new.
Mm-hmm.
And then, with Caddy, it's also just to hear her of like, it's more even like the sounds of like the cars and like, taking the saws and just almost drowning out the noise in a way. But she also, again, she's taking cars that were on dump sites and just like left out in a field. And she's taking them and totally recreating them into something new as well. And I think that that's a really beautiful, metaphor for both of them, just to be able to kind of come in and reclaim their lives after these experiences. And with Cynthia, she describes that she was a writer, and so now to go into this graphic memoir phase of like really tapping into Erica's art, I just thought was such a beautiful connection that she keeps with her daughter. And, she always says, like, she wasn't a drawer. And, someone said to her at one point, well, maybe this is where Erica got it from. And Cynthia's response is, I think I got it from her. And it's just a beautiful way that I think that she has that connection still to Erica.
Yeah, that was really surprising when that aspect of her story was revealed. I was like, huh. And amazing, and it was amazing, like so beautiful, so powerful. Um, Absolutely loved that. Okay, how those of you who did not do personal films, Mimi and Mikaela, I'll start with Mimi. How did you happen upon this subject?
Years ago, I knew a firefighter who told me, because I had done The Price of Sex, I had done a couple other films, um, Far From Home, and so I remember meeting with him and him saying, "Do you want to do something? If you want to do something in your own backyard, you should really look into this amazing program." That was, established by a group of Black firefighters in Oakland. And so I had no interest in the fire service or in first responders or EMTs. This was a whole new world.
Mhm.
But I thought, let me check it out. Let me meet the kids. Let me see. And I remember early on, the founder, who's also going to Tucson next week, Wellington Jackson, he said to me, "There is no way in hell they're ever gonna let you in." Because I was telling him, I need to wake up with them. I need to get them brushing their teeth. I need to be there at 5 in the morning. I might even spend the night.
Mhm.
He was just laughing, and he's like, "There is no way in hell they'll ever let you do that." And with one of the kids, it took 8 months to get to that place. Um, so, it was a really long process, but I remember also thinking, for me, I can't have a documentary unless you have that intimacy. Um, and you have those scenes that are, you feel very, very close to the people who are in your film. So, that's how it all got started. Yeah.
Okay. Mikaela, how did you happen upon this topic?
So I grew up in Phoenix, and I knew a few people who were sent away to these programs in high school. And a, a kid named Aaron Bacon went to my high school and died pretty horrifically in one of these places. And so I remember those stories from being a teenager, but then I just probably didn't think about it for about 20 years. And as I was researching another story around 2015, I realized I just came to understand the industry a little bit more and really like the long lasting effects of it and actually like what was going on in them. I don't think I'd ever really understood the abuse and how harsh it was. And so I had interviewed a journalist named Maya Salovitz, and she was kind of bringing it all back. And in that interview with her for a different project, I kind of dropped everything on that other project and really wanted to cover this. And it was the same week that John Martin Crawford, who is an activist and had died by suicide. And so in talking with Maya and just, that was something I'd also just never considered, is the PTSD that stays with people 20 years later, and the fact that the suicide rate is alarmingly high for this population. And so she put me in touch with Liz Ionelli, who was John Martin Crawford's best friend. And I had just moved from New York to Los Angeles, so I was visiting New York, and I went up and drove up like maybe within 2 days and just met for an initial interview and really just went from there and kind of took it piece by piece. We thought it was really important to share people from different programs because I think that oftentimes there's news stories where, a place will get shut down due to abuse. And there'll be a ton of stories about that. But then I think most people think, oh, well, that was just like one bad program.
Mhm.
And so it was important to us to kind of share at least a few stories. And so we reached out to the community and started talking with people.
And how was getting funding for your project, Mikaela?
It was tough. I would say even also, 9 years ago, a lot when we started this, a lot of the feedback I actually got was that the story was too hard to hear. I had a lot of people kind of shut me down pretty quickly. We did get a few grants, and then we've brought on a few investors, but it's also been, you know, mostly self-funding over the years, editing to kind of pay for shoots and keep that moving. So we do have a couple great partners, but it has been long. And that's also where I think, you know, we started the film with, we had journalists, lawyers, legislators, you know, we had all of these people because 9 years ago, we actually weren't sure that these survivors would be heard on their own and that people would believe those stories. And I think a lot has changed in the last 9 years in terms of people's knowledge of the industry, survivors being heard in general, and believed in general. And so the film has also shifted quite a bit over time.
Mhm. Mimi, how was getting funding for your project?
Terrible initially. Self-funded for the first 4 or 5 years. And then in the last couple of years, we had this amazing foundation, the Care Star Foundation, that really believed in the project and made sure that we finished it. So, but yeah, I would say the majority of the years it's been just scraping by.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems pretty standard, sadly. And you touched on that as well, Mabel, that you did a lot of self-funding and got a few grants mixed in along the way.
Yes, yeah, my majority self-funded, but I did get a few grants that helped me in the last few years also of making the film. Never enough, but I'm so grateful that it really got this level of support. And yes, at that point, I was like, I basically finished my film. Probably with a lot of filmmakers similar, you don't have any, uh, if something happened to you, you don't have anything. It's just to take care of yourself, but that's what it was. And I'm just rebuilding myself now, after, all these years of making the film.
Hmm. So what do you all have planned for your next projects, if you care to share such things?
Well, I would say right now, really, for me, it's really important that the film is having its life in festivals, and this is amazing and beautiful. Right now, this weekend, I'm showing it in like different cities of, Tucson, Chicago, New York, and Paris. Paris just shown this morning, nighttime, their time. Ultimately, what I really, really looking for, because it took so, if making a film and finishing is one thing, but then really showing it in my case, and I think that in the case where there is social issue documentaries, and at this time where right now immigration, the conversation about immigration is so urgent and crucial, to me really is like how to contribute with this story to show the humanity of immigrants with one single story that touches in these universal aspects of it, and that maybe people can reconsider. Because we're in the state where we are right now, and it's all, all of us have a part of it. So understanding more of our humanity is really important to bring less division to our country.
Mm-hmm. I have a viewer question, so I just want to make sure I get this in. Um, oh, it's the question that I just asked you. So what do you do? What's on the agenda next? So, okay, never mind. We all have the same question. So, Mimi, what are you working on next?
We have we had In the Red, and then there was another feature-length documentary that we finished a year and a half ago called The Apology. So I'm taking a break from feature-length documentaries. We're working on a few shorts, but I think overall, I'm listening to all of you as well and to your answers, and I'm thinking every time I do these panel discussions, I think, something must be wrong with us. You know, I mean, it's so self-punishing. This work is, and it, every time we talk about funding, every time, and you always feel, I mean, I don't know about you, but I always feel like well, something, I must not be doing it the right way. There, you know, and then you hear the same answers collectively of just what a struggle it is to make it. And then we spent all these years working on something, you know, charging stuff on credit cards, you know, and
Yeah.
I mean, there is like a type of insanity. And I guess I- my answer to your question is I'm very, very frustrated with the
Mhm.
fact that we don't value this type of work enough to make a decent living, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and that the expectation is that because we are passionate and because we do give a shit about whatever issue is in our films, that we're just gonna keep on sacrificing and keep on doing what we're doing, and it's brutal. I think it's really brutal and it's extremely frustrating. So I'm very frustrated with the current, it's always been like this, but even now it's even worse, right? The current state of the expectation that if we are documentary filmmakers, you know, unless you're independently wealthy, which is not my case, you know, I don't know how we're supposed to get by. I really don't.
Agreed. Agreed. It is like it's a crazy thing to be driven to do. Because you're not, you know, there's rewards to it, but it's not making a living. Yeah, that's for me, that's not one of them. So, um, which, you know, I speak to my filmmaker friends in Canada and they actually can be full-time filmmakers making these kinds of films that all of you have made. And which is
Oh,
wonderful. I
wow.
don't know why it's not that way here, but it's just not that way.
Hmm.
Um, so on that note, Michaela, what are you working on next?
I mean, I would echo, you know, Mimi's statements and that, you know, I don't know that I'll do this again, in a way.
Everybody says this every year.
Yeah, you know, but I also said that after my first film, so
Yeah,
who knows?
yeah.
But at the same time, you know, I think for us, the goal this year is to also just make sure we're getting the film seen. We've only started our festival run, and we really want to focus on impact screenings and educational screenings, and so we're working on how to get that done now to actually really target audiences. Um, yeah, and then and I'm working on some edit projects because I think that's the way that I've found to stay sustainable in the industry is not to
That's amazing.
win. Yeah.
Oh, okay, without giving away too many spoilers, people want to know, Mabel, how is your family doing now?
My family's been doing okay. I mean, Peru is not an easy country.
Mhm.
Until somewhat recently, they actually been doing okay. Um, However, right now, well, for a few years now, I would say 5 years at least, there's been so much of a political crisis, political social crisis in Peru, so that affects them. But even more right now, there's a high level of not just corruption, but crime that is affecting people, the working class people, is affecting the people that are racially discriminated, and they are the ones who live in the working class areas of the cities. So they're being targeted, and it's horrifying. So my family hasn't. I have a family member has been directly affected by that kind of violence, and it's just unbelievable that how the state of Latin America and the state of Peru and the governments do absolutely nothing about it. So we have hope, but also, they're living a different kind of violence. It's not like guerrillas; it's the political system in a way, and it really saddens me and frustrates me, and I just don't know what can we do to like solve this.
Yeah. Given the current climate here in the US and the way they're treating people with green cards, are you feeling comfortable to go visit your family?
I've been asking myself that question. I mean, I am a U.S. citizen, but who knows, right? Like,
Yeah,
nothing is
exactly.
Nothing is, it seems like people, immigrants, activist immigrants have been targeted right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to stop talking about these things, but I'm wondering, right, like for my next trip, whether it's going there or coming back, because already, like even before, like coming in, immigration will ask you, what do you do? Like such a power dynamic. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it's a question that I don't know yet how would it be, but if I had to go, I had to go and, you know, try to be safe.
Mm-hmm. And Mimi, without giving away too much, how are your subjects doing? Any exciting new developments for Stubbs?
Uh, so well, you can ask him next week. He's
Okay.
doing great. He's working. Everyone is working, which is
Mm-hmm.
the wonderful thing. Everyone is working. Dex is about to have another child. He's gonna have a third little, I think, baby boy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think people are just, a couple of people got married, got, engaged, then married, just living life. And
Ah,
there's only one person in the documentary that we haven't been able to find. And I don't want to give away,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
there is only one person who I cannot answer this question about, but everyone else is doing well.
Okay, good to hear. And Mikaela, how are all the lovely people in your film doing?
I would say people are doing mostly well. The survivors from the Family Foundation School had a pretty amazing victory just in the past month or so. And we'll share that as an update at the screening. And yeah, Cynthia is doing well, and Caddy has been, certainly affected by the administration, and I think there's, a lot of fear in terms of what can happen with her safety, and she's keeping quiet a little bit, but I think she's doing okay.
Understandable. Okay. Well, thank you all so much. Can you remind us when your screenings are and if you're going to be here and all that? Let us know so we can, our viewers can know when to catch your films. Whoever wants to go. Mikaela, do you know when yours is?
Yeah, we're playing tomorrow at the screening room at 2 p.m. and I will be there. I'm heading out in a few hours.
Awesome. Okay. And Mimi, you're coming in as well?
I am not, but I'm sending a lot of people who will take my place. So Wellington
Okay.
Jackson, Joseph Stubbs, Aisha Knowles, all of them will be there. And the screening is next Friday at 6 p.m. at the screening room. So that's Friday, April 11th at 6
Perfect.
p.m.
Thank you. And Mabel?
Yes, my screening is tomorrow, Saturday, at the screening room as well, and it is at 6 p.m. And I wish I could be there, but I won't be there. But I'm also sending people, and I'm sending all the good energy for a wonderful screening. And I'm dying to know how it's going to be, especially because it's too soon and because it's you know, for the immigrant community, this is so important in terms of the discussion. And I really, really wish I was there, but I'll be there in spirit.
Very good. Well, we'll let you know how it all goes. So yeah, the people can get the full schedule online and at filmfestivalarizona.com. And yeah, thank you all so much for being here and sharing your process and your thoughts. Very much appreciated. Your hard work and your sacrifices as filmmakers really enrich all of our lives. Your art is so important. And even though our country does not reward it as it should, your work is needed and it's very important. And I thank you all for doing it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
It
Okay,
is an
well,
honor to be here. Thank you.
you're very welcome, Mabel. So, everybody who's watching, we can't wait to see you at the movies. Thank you again, and everybody have a good afternoon. I'm heading over to the movies, so I'll see you all later.
Meet you.
Hasta la vista.
everyone.
Adios. Thank you.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye-bye.